Hi, everybody. My name is Donna Swanson. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Focus Center for Autism and the Fresh Start School. And welcome to Life on the Spectrum. It's one of the shows that we're doing. We're so lucky to be able to do this on Nutmeg TV. Thank you. And what we want to do is be able to show you about different people's lives and experiences on being on the autism spectrum. Focus Center for Autism and the Fresh Start School. Focus has been in existence for 21 years. We've been providing services to kids and adults. We have a continuum of care. We have a small school, special ed approved, the Fresh Start School, and then we also have two residential programs. One is in Barkhamsted. It's a DCF placement for kids on the autism spectrum with trauma. And then we also have a DEMAS, Department of Mental Health Services, and that we have a young adult program in Torrington of supervised apartments. And we've been providing awesome services for 21 years, and just really proud of what we do for individuals on the spectrum, and very proud to have you be a part of this. Please look us up on, we have a website and we have a Facebook page, and if we'd love you to friend us on our Facebook page. You'd learn a lot about us and all the interesting things that we're up to. Today we have Dan Sitcovsky. He's our director of autism services, and my co-partner here, my partner in crime on the show. And then today our guest is Eli Totzke. Did I say it right? Totzke. I can never say that right, but you still care about me anyway, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. You forgive me for being human. Now, Eli, you're an alumni of Focus.
Yeah.
And you're 18? You just turned 18.
Just turned 18, yeah.
Yeah, and how old were you when you started coming to Focus?
Probably 12 or 13.
And why did you come to Focus?
I was very socially out of place, I guess is a good way to put it. And my stepmom actually thought it'd be a really, really good idea.
And so, Dan, you remember him coming?
It was really tough for you to come, right? Do you remember those first few months?
Yeah.
Why?
I would actually refuse to get out of the car because I was nervous. And
you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had your anxiety was, so how did we get you out of the car?
Usually they bribe me.
The Focus store?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it worked?
Mm-hmm.
And how were you once you got in?
I was perfectly fine. I really, really enjoyed it.
And why do you think that? Because I feel like that happened for like a few months at least.
Yeah.
What happened inside your head that was like, next time, even if you had a good time, what do you think happened in your brain?
Well, something with me is I'm ultra sensitive. So the way I like to explain it is, imagine you have a tone knob or a volume knob. If someone were to adjust it a tiny bit, it affects me. So sometimes it'd be something at school, and I think that was a lot of it. I had a bad day at school, and I just wanted to go home and play video games and escape. So in my head, that's all I had: video games.
So I don't want to get out of the car.
And you bring up a good point too, that the day can affect the after, your after school, but also, transitions aren't that easy either.
Yeah.
And what makes transitions hard?
Change is just, for me, I don't like the feeling physically when there's a change. Sometimes.
What happens physically?
It just feels off. It doesn't, I think that's the best way to put it. You feel off, and it just doesn't feel right.
Okay. And what do you do about it?
Actually, something that has really, really helped me is mindfulness. We used to do Headspace. It's this app. Dan would do it with me, and I find in those tough moments, just taking a few seconds to kind of check in with yourself and see how you're doing. And what I usually do if I have an extra few seconds is I'll kind of do a sensory check, and I'll kind of close my eyes and I'll listen to the sounds around me and kind of bring awareness back to how I'm breathing.
So do you think that grounds you?
Yeah, it kind of grounds me.
So if you don't do that, do you feel like ungrounded and just like because we didn't get to this part yet, but when I do mindfulness with the students now at school, we talk about the brain functioning that's happening. I don't think I talked to you guys about that.
No.
And a lot of it is the amygdala. When we get so stressed or anxious, the amygdala is firing. So you're probably, what was happening, it was super active. And how do you calm it down? And mindfulness helps you slow down that process. So you taking those few seconds probably gave your brain a little space to be able to actually
A
process.
reset,
Yeah.
the space to reset, because the amygdala is it's the old brain, it's the ancient brain where we used to have to always be in that fight or flight mode, and so people with anxiety, especially, the autism spectrum is known for anxiety, so that's the brain that kind of takes over in those moments. How do we know if you're anxious?
Usually most people don't, but sometimes one way to tell is I don't sit still.
You don't sit still.
And especially if I move around a lot. So right before, when I was waiting to go on here, we were recording another episode and the chair squeaked a little bit, so I was scared to move the rest of the time because I was scared I was going to mess everything up.
Yeah. So you are very sensitive, and you are very aware of other people too, right? Which you care a lot about people.
Yeah, and I think I'm aware a little bit too much sometimes.
I was going to get there, but I'm glad you got there first. And why is that a problem?
It's a problem because it affects my sensory needs and the way I operate.
Does it affect your self-esteem too?
Very much.
Yeah.
Tell me about your sensory needs.
So one of my things is, sorry, I blanked out.
That's okay.
Tell me about your sensory needs.
Well, that was an example right there. When I get nervous, sometimes I'll space out.
Yeah.
But I really like heavy metal music, and the reason is it just kind of grounds me, and I like the feeling of the bass. And another thing is high-pitched noises don't bother me as much for some reason. That's usually different than most people.
Yep.
But it's a little bit too much because something will be squealing, and it might bother me sometimes, other times it doesn't.
What about being around a lot of people?
I have a lot of anxiety around people.
Yeah.
You know that, right, Dan?
Yeah, just knowing that you might, when you were in the afternoon program, you'd be doing great in the activities, but you would need a break because just the energy of people being around people would just drain you.
That's what I explained with the tone knob. Sometimes it's the way their tone is, sometimes it's the volume.
So it's something that you know inside. It doesn't have to be the same thing every time, but it's when that you're getting that reaction.
Yeah.
Like for me, I can't tolerate clicking, or the plastic water bottles when they it just makes me it gets to me, and I can hear it. It bothers me.
For a while, I had sensory issues with food.
Okay. Tell me about
I still do a little bit. Certain fats I can't eat, like pork. I will not eat pork unless it's pulled pork, just because of the way the fat is.
Okay.
I will not eat cauliflower because it bothers me. I will not eat seafood because the texture bothers me.
Okay, so it's texture. Is that what it is with cauliflower?
Yeah.
So it's a texture. But can you eat broccoli?
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But interesting. Do you have other special diet issues?
Well, something I've noticed, and it isn't just me, I think it's a lot of people, not just on the spectrum, but anyone with mental health struggles, is weight.
Yep.
Because what I find is a lot of doctors in the mental health system just like to shove you on meds. And I ended up gaining a lot of weight, and at times, it's not that I didn't need meds, it's just they shoved me on too many.
Okay.
And I'm at a point right now where I'm trying to even out my meds so I'm not feeling drugged all the time.
Right.
And
it's a hard balance to find, right? Because you do need them, right?
Yeah.
But which ones and how much? I know you know more about that, Donna, being
but it's also individual. What are the things that you would like the medication to target?
I like it to It's not a fix-all. I know that.
It's a tool.
It's a tool. But I think we rely as it too much on a tool in the mental health system. Because for some people, medicine is perfectly fine. The more meds, the better. But for people like me, I just need one or two to help me process things. Because another one of my sensory things is it takes me longer to process things.
Okay. And like I don't see that so much when you're with people that you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
But for you, it manifests itself in other situations more. Dan, have you seen that?
Yeah, and I think part of it, because you have some traumatic events in your life, so and I think when people have trauma, amygdala is much more overactive, so and then it gets you into place, and when we're that anxious or that angry, our brains aren't functioning 100%, not even close to it. So like you said, it's hard to process. So you're looking for something to help you be able to process those things and those thoughts and feelings, because
Have you seen him angry?
honestly, I have not. Once, maybe. I think you were mad once. And this is what was always interesting about you, Eli, for us, is times you were with us. I don't think there was any day you got lower than a 2. I think it was like
I
9.
had one time.
Maybe. Okay, I don't remember that, but it was mostly 3s. But then you'd be telling us about really hard times at home you had, and there's like almost like a different person.
Yeah.
But that happens is where you were comfortable here, and sometimes at home we let out more of our issues, but you never, it was about getting picked up or something, so it wasn't even in the program that I saw you angry. It was 4 years, and you were always pleasant.
But at the same time that he was always pleasant, he was also really struggling. You've been in and out of the hospital, right?
Yeah.
For aggression or depression or both?
Both.
Yep.
Something I like that you say is assume goodwill.
Yeah.
And what that means, I know you know what it means, but viewers might not, is say you see someone throwing a fit in the grocery store. Let's say a 10-year-old, for example. You might be like, oh, what bad parenting, a kid throwing a fit, but you don't know what has gone through that kid's head.
Right.
It could be a kid throwing a fit because of anxiety, and the reason I threw a lot of what people would call fits is more because of anxiety or something I didn't understand. It wasn't because I was behavioral or had ODD.
Oppositional defiant disorder.
Yeah, which is a common misdiagnosis with people on the spectrum.
Yes.
I had a phase where I had behavioral problems, but it was more from depression and anxiety and not understanding things and being stressed out. It wasn't because I was behavioral.
And I think, Donna, you always say, and I wonder if you say it, is behavior is a form of communication.
Right.
So you were trying to communicate in a way that you didn't really have the words to.
Yeah.
Is that how you feel?
Yeah. And I understand what my parents saw and what my grandparents saw, but I think now we're on a good page where we all kind of understand what's going on.
And the focused definition of autism is creatively wired and socially challenged, because depending on where the wiring is, depends on how it shows up. But the social challenges are real. And our kids always say, we just want to belong, we want to be understood, we don't want to necessarily be changed. And that's what you're talking about in terms of assuming goodwill, is that, we haven't walked in those shoes, and don't just assume that the kid's a brat. There may be something more going on.
Something I think that should be changed about the world we live in today is we're so advanced with mental health that I think we're beyond autism awareness. I think we're at a point where we should start with autism acceptance.
I agree. And the autism field feels that, the community feels that too. People want to be accepted regardless of where you fall on the spectrum. And it's considered a spectrum because there's no two that are alike, and depending on the one thing that everybody on the spectrum, I think, does have in common is anxiety.
I think so too.
And
I was going to add that I think part of the reason you always did well at our program is you did feel accepted because you were, and tell me if this is my perspective, that you got along with all your peers, so you kind of had a community, so your level of anxiety went down because you knew everybody and were comfortable with them, so there was no need for your amygdala to fire up other than the first few months when it was a transition coming in.
And that feeling of belonging, what is that like?
It feels really, really good. It's I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. So you know how when you like eat a food and it feels like the best thing ever?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah, okay.
Except without the chewing and
So it just feels really delicious to belong, right?
Yeah.
And it just feels so good and so comforting too, right?
yeah.
Eli, you got your license just recently. You just turned 18. You have had multiple. When I say multiple jobs, it's more because of moving or this and that. But tell us about some of your jobs.
So I've got a really, really great background in customer service, and from what I'm told, customers really love me at the jobs I've had.
Not surprised.
And it's not because I'm fake, but I'm able to kind of communicate in a good way that's very likable.
You're doing that right now.
I would agree.
And so you've worked in grocery stores.
I've worked at Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
That was fun.
You like that?
Yeah.
And what else have you done? You've worked in a couple different grocery stores.
I've worked at Stop and Shop. I've worked at a supermarket in Granby called Geisler's.
Yeah.
I've worked at Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah. And somehow you make, how long has it been since you haven't been at Focus?
2 years.
And do we still hear from you on a regular basis?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful that you keep reaching out to us and staying in contact.
Yeah.
And you wanted to be on this Life on the Spectrum and be able to tell your story.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for the parents and the other kids that might be watching this?
So for parents, the advice I'd give is it's all going to work out. Because I find, especially with me and a lot of friends I have on the spectrum, it takes time. It's not overnight, so you might get frustrated grinding your teeth now, but you got to kind of get down on your kids' level and show them the way. It might be really frustrating. And for the kids or peers, whoever's watching this who might be on the spectrum, I recommend follow your dreams and just don't give up, because I've wanted to give up on my passions and a lot of stuff because of depression, and I've come to realize it's not about if it's good, it's about if you enjoy doing it.
You're like the Buddha here. That's very well said.
Yeah.
What are your passions and your dreams?
I love music.
Yep.
I play guitar. I used to play quite a few other instruments, but I don't consider myself the best, but I have so much fun doing it.
Which follows your motto of have fun with it, right?
Yeah.
What's another passion that you have?
Right now, now that I've turned 18, I'm really, really into like just looking at stocks and Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. It's just all really interesting. Honestly, even if I don't buy any, I just like looking at the numbers. Oh, I made 23 cents. Oh, I've lost 3 cents.
So you pretend that you're in the game, right?
Yeah, I haven't thrown a lot of money in it, but it's just fun to watch the numbers go up and down, honestly.
And learn from that. I have no clue how any of that works. So, and I'm going to keep it that way. I think it's enough for me to manage a cell phone. What was the most helpful for you?
At Focus, or?
Yeah, or just in school, you also, when you were at high school, you had people that really believed in you too.
Yeah, so in high school, What I find is it was a great environment because there were a lot of kids that understood my struggles, but it also, it's hard because there wasn't a program that fit people on the higher end of the spectrum, higher functioning. But it was also good because I got to learn to be with a normal group of kids that weren't on the spectrum, so it kind of helped me a little bit.
Were you bullied at all?
Quite a lot, actually.
Where? In all the school?
Yeah, all school.
Okay, so how were you bullied and for what?
Sometimes it was my weight, and sometimes I just have impulses. Like, I actually had fun doing this, and I still do, but I would go up to tables and say random things, and they weren't necessarily inappropriate, but they were just...
Was it to try to fit in or try to do something?
Yeah,
or
I wanted to kind of make people laugh.
But how did it go over?
Didn't go over too well.
It was kind of you trying to make a connection in a way, but yeah.
But you were trying to make the connection in a way that they didn't get.
Yeah.
Right? They just thought it was kind of weird and random.
Yeah.
And what would they do with that?
Nothing, honestly. They'd just kind of be like, huh, that was weird.
Did you make friends?
I made a lot of friends through Focus, actually.
Yeah. And you still have them? That's really good. And do you guys ever get together, or you just mostly communicate?
A little bit of both.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. We have some people who are interested in heavy metal, so I might have to have you be a heavy metal mentor.
This is the second time it's been mentioned on this program as a good coping skill.
Yeah, and everybody's surprised that heavy metal is a coping skill because for some people it's an irritant, right? And for some people how does it calm you down?
So I saw this quote and I absolutely love it. So some songs can get really gruesome and gross, as you know.
Yeah.
But the quote I saw is, "You don't like metal because you hear the meaning. I like it because I hear the screaming." And if you really look at the quote, by screaming they mean like the pain, and it's just something to really relate to.
That's what our other kids have said, that they can relate to it and it actually helps calm them down.
Yeah.
It gets right to their feelings, kind of in a calmer way, though, right?
Yeah.
Dan, is that how it was explained?
Yeah. Sometimes it's like a storm. It's just like people feel more calm in a storm because it's kind of equates to what you're feeling inside a little bit. So it's kind of like equalized in a way. Whereas if you're just listening to calm, nice music, sometimes you might have more anxiety.
We just have a couple minutes left, but what would you like what haven't we covered with
Well, I think
Eli?
one of the most important thing for Eli is it's a process and it's a lifelong process, because you see Eli, he's very self-aware, always has been when we were dealing with him, but he's always still having struggles while being self-aware. So it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
And also I'd say that Eli, it's kind of like an iceberg. You see Eli right now, all we've experienced is very positive, but we know you're struggling with a lot of different things, but you're trying to put your best foot forward, you're doing your best, and that's, customers would see you like, oh, that's the nicest person, and you are but like you also have your stuff you're working on. I think it's really important for people to understand that. So we all have stuff we're working on, and you have a lot, and it's still, even though you're in a better place now, it's still a lot going on for you, right? That's stressing you out and that you need help with. So I think it's, trying to understand where someone's coming from, not fully being able to, but you're a good example of that, I think.
And I think you also are a really good example of kindness and loyalty, and you do try to live that assumed goodwill.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of your strengths is your ability to reach out for help, because you just recently, not that long ago, reached out and wanted felt the need that you were needing help. What would be the your last thing that you'd like to say? And did you like being on Nutmeg TV?
Yeah, I did. Can we do wrap up really quick?
Okay, all right.
You're gonna lead?
What's your appreciation?
So my appreciation is being able to reconnect with Focus today.
And what's your high point?
My high point is being on Nutmeg TV.
And what's your low point? Because you have to have a low point.
The chair, I was afraid it was gonna squeak.
Okay. Dan, what's your we won't go through the whole wrap up. We'll just do appreciation.
My appreciation was getting you on the show and just talking to you.
My appreciation is you being you and your willingness to come out and share your story. And I also appreciate Nutmeg for having us on and giving us these opportunities. Mm-hmm. And what are you looking forward to after this? Are we going to feed you maybe?
Maybe.
Is that what you're hoping for?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what we get. That's the golden nugget, right? Is that
Yeah.
we feed.
Get
One,
lunch,
we get
yeah.
to be together,
Yeah.
and that's always positive. And two, we get to go out and have and share some good times. I would like to say thank you for joining us, and please join us again for Life on the Spectrum. We've got more interesting guests to come up at different times, and thank you again so much. Like us on Facebook. All right.
You got it right this time.